My name is Laurens Wapenaar. I'm product manager at FinDock, and with me is Steven van der Knaap, our VP of product. And together we will be showing you our January 22 release. As always, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to post them in the chat or in the Q&A, and we'll answer them at the end or in between if that's more logical. As a reminder, everything we'll be talking about is already in your sandbox environments and will be moved and deployed to your production environment on January 13th. And that's in about a month. So as a reminder, from this release onwards, we switched to a bi-monthly release cycle from a monthly release cycle with a 4-week sandbox period instead of a 2-week sandbox period, to give everyone more time to test our changes against their current environments. You can find our release schedule and also when release notes are published, when this webinar is, and when everything goes to sandbox or production orgs on our documentation site. And any releases, hotfixes, or incidents that happen in the meanwhile are tracked at status.findock.com, where you can subscribe to notifications in case something is happening. There's a lot released in this release, but there's definitely some things that we'd like to highlight. We are going to be talking briefly about SEPA Credit Transfer, which is currently in beta, or will be moved to beta with this release. We've done some changes to our Bacs packages, which we'll be doing more in the coming releases. And then our main feature for this webinar is FinDock Giving Pages. And that will also be our focus of the demo today. Then at the end, of course, we'll briefly discuss the other bugs and enhancements that we've done before we move on to questions. Okay, so let's get started. SEPA Credit Transfer was with the November release pushed to pilot, and together with our implementing customer, we have done some changes and now deem it ready for beta, which means that it's now open to everyone who would like to start using this. However, I'd like to remind you that SEPA Credit Transfer is a paid add-on feature. So if you would like to use it, please contact us, either me or Stefan or our sales department directly to talk about the possibilities here. Hopefully, if the beta phase goes well, then we'll move this feature to GA in March. So what have we done to deem it ready for beta? Primarily, we've added automation of payment schedules for SEPA Credit Transfer. This was already possible for basically every other payment method, but is now also possible when you would like to send out money, which is what credit transfer is all about. We've also added support for non-EEA remittance, so outside of the Eurozone. And we've fixed the bug on reverse installment handling. And the details of this, of course, can be found in our release notes. Next up is Bacs. So we started with a lot of changes to make Bacs easier to use, both our Bacs manual offering, our Smart Debit offering, as our Go Cardless Bacs Direct Debit offering. In the previous release, we already did some improvements, and this release we're continuing that. So what we've done is we've improved the target configuration, which was previously only to be found in the processing hub settings, but can now also be found on a specific Bacs style in the setup. And we will probably be adding more settings to there, so more of the setup can be done from the same place. But the main thing here is that we've enabled guided matching on Bacs reports. So there's a lot of reports that can be uploaded to FinDock from your Bacs bureau, called ADEX or AURIT or stuff like that, which basically gives you an update on your Bacs direct debit payments. And previously these were only handled on the engine, which made it kind of hard to extend this with anything other than raw Apex code, but also made it hard to see what actually happened aside from trying to go back from the change data towards the report itself. But with guided matching now in place, this is very clear on the inbound report what happened. As you can see on the right, the guided matching shows you exactly what data was taken in from the report and what data was changed in your environment. And when something goes wrong, it's also made very clear here what went wrong and why. Additionally to this, these what we call managed out-of-the-box rule sets, guided matching rule sets, can also be extended with your own rules. So if you would like to do more than just what FinDock does out of the box, you can now do this by adding guided matching rules instead of writing code or flow or something similar. And it's also handled very transparently here. That's basically it. More can be found in our release notes, and especially next release, we'll be doing a lot of changes here, or a lot of improvements based on all the conversations we've had with customers and partners. And we'll probably dive a bit deeper into our Bacs offering as well on the webinar. So now on to the main feature of this release, which is FinDock Giving Pages. Like we discussed a bit already in the last release webinar, we have been on a continuous journey, as we like to call it, for giving pages, starting with the introduction of V2 of our API somewhere last year, and then the launch of giving pages early this year in February. In the meanwhile, we've already improved the payment component with the launch of Paylinks as well. And now we would like to take the next step here. In this release, we've targeted three main things. So we wanted to improve the front end look and feel. So what does the page look like? How does it behave on both desktop and mobile? We wanted to make it easier to create and update payments, pages and payment forms. And we fixed some glaring bugs that were there for things that just didn't work. On the front end side, what we've done is we've added a new third template based on feedback that we got for customers. We've made it possible to add more fonts and also to add your own custom fonts with a bit of CSS. We've reworked the templates to look nicer on both desktop and mobile. We've added new designs for birthday and other date fields. Made images a link, make it possible to add a link to images. White logos were previously not supported in a nice way, and we've improved mobile rendering. Two of these we'll dive in a bit deeper shortly. On the creation and updation side, we've basically completely redone the whole page banner experience. So it looks different and it works different now. We've done the same with the page builder experience to make it easier to use. We've enhanced how we handle addresses, because Salesforce has, of course, very specific address fields and address compound fields, which we now support. And by far the most requested feature in FinDock Giving Pages is the ability to change the form, to add fields, to add text, to rearrange fields, other than the about 8 fields that we shipped before. And we'll definitely show you how this works in the demo. But first, I'd like to briefly discuss the front-end changes. So this is our new third template, which features the form basically center stage when you land on the page. And there's very little distraction at first sight, basically. But if you would scroll down, and we'll see that later, there is room for a lot more content. And this is basically the template that we see is very popular now with lots of organizations, which help you if you just want to donate, you can do that right away. But if you want to know more, there's plenty of content to convince you about it. Now, for all templates, we have done, especially the 2 existing templates, we've done changes that make them look better on several screen types. But these things I would like to highlight because they are much requested by customers and partners. The Panda image is now full width. So instead of being boxed in, which did not make it render nice on certain larger screen sizes, it's now full page on the left-hand side. And that makes it look a lot better on when you start resizing the screen. Now, on mobile, we had a lot of feedback on the fact that that before you could see the form, you'd have to scroll down because the image was on top, and we worked that for all templates to still show a bit of the image and still show the title and the logo, but you will always immediately see the form, so you don't have to start guessing. And third, we've got lots of requests to be able to add more content. Basically, more content was one of the main feedback we got, but also the ability to add industry logos, like in the Netherlands, we have the ANBI logo. In the UK, you have Fundraising Regulator, to basically show that this is a serious page from a serious organization, and it's secure to pay or donate money to it. And now there's lots of other things, but those you can see when you open a page yourself. Now, before we dive into the demo, and Stefan will show all this, how this works, the largest change we did is the ability to customize your own form, which means in this case that you can add your own input fields or text paragraphs, so pieces of text. You can map these to contact, account, installment, recurring, which object that is based on your source, and inbound report fields. So basically anything that's available in Salesforce. Then these input fields will take the field type, so whether it's text, whether it's a checkbox, whether it's a date field, from that Salesforce field. And the same with pick list fields. If you map to a pick list field, it will take the values from that field and then show them on the front-end side. You can also basically hide fields and then pass a default value, so you can pass any metadata like a campaign for this giving page or an origin to Salesforce, to basically to any field, so that you can then use it for further automation. Like I mentioned before, there's a special field for addresses because addresses are special in Salesforce. So we need to be able to handle them in a very specific way on the front end, but we also need to be able to map them in a very specific way on the Salesforce side. So that's why the address input field is a separate field you can add. And of course, to make the form as you like, you can reorder all these customizable fields. And I think that's what I wanted to say. And now Stefan is going to show you what it looks like.
Thank you, Lawrence. Yes, I will. I'm happy to go over all the changes with you and actually create a page with all the new exciting features we brought to Giving Pages. Because as you can see on my screen, and here it's just a sandbox with the newest version of FinDock. We also in the process redesigned both the Pages Manager and the Pages Builder to accommodate for these new functionality. And here you can see the Page Manager screen in front of me, where you can see that in this Salesforce environment, there are already four different giving pages created. All of them, or the first one and the third one, are already active, but these ones are not active or not published. And the Save the Rhino page here is my default. On the top, I can also see what is my the domain I can use for giving pages and subdomain, and if it's set up correctly. And here you are also able to potentially update or delete your domain. Now for this demo, before we dive into, we will create a new page together. I want to remind you that all these changes apply to new pages that you create, but they have no effect on your current runtime giving pages, meaning that if you're already a giving page customer and there's already pages in your Salesforce environment, they will not be affected by either the new front-end changes or the changes that we discussed earlier. So there's no need for you to worry with regards to backwards compatibility of your current existing giving pages. But if you want to use the new giving pages, you can update or create a new page. And when we do that, you can first select a template, right? And we have 3 different templates with completely different experiences and different goals. So we have the activate template, the excite template that Lauren showed earlier, and now we created a 3rd one called the engage template. And when I select this template, the data is created in my Salesforce org, and we will go to the new pages builder. And here you can see in the new pages builder, you can see on the top bar, we are in the page we called webinar. And here, when I make a drop down, very similar to other places in Salesforce with builders, you can easily go from page to a different page. Now, if you have questions about how it works or want to look up some features, then on the right-hand side, you can click on help and you immediately go to the right pages in our FinDock documentation website. What's also noticeably different here is that we had a different screen layout with a left bar, a middle part, and a right bar. And we removed the left bar. And you can see here in the middle part, you can see a live preview of the page as it's currently configured. Out of the box, this is the default. And on the right-hand side, you can see all the different elements on the page. And when I go over them, you will notice that there's a blue hover. So when I go on the logo, that's the logo there. And the title is the title here with Save the Rhino. Now, let's together build and modify this page, right? And let's start by giving the page a nice image, because we ship with an out-of-the-box image giving you some content, but let's remove this image and upload a new image, the original Rhino, but then without the gray and the dimensions on top of it. We've uploaded it, we say okay, we can save the changes, and here we have the original Rhino. Now for this page, we also want to update the logo. So I'm selecting the logo and I will update it with the original logo. And secondly, this is a new feature that was much requested. You can also put in here a URL so that when somebody would click on your logo, you can redirect them to your, well, most of the times to your main website, obviously. What we can also do, just to make it a really nice experience for this case, we will upload the logo as well to the fave icon, meaning that here you see the nice little Salesforce cloud. That's called a fave icon, and you can upload that to make your page look like your really your page. And here we will put the webinar January 22 release and also hit save. Now when you look at this page, you can style it completely how you want, right? So as Lawrence mentioned, this is the default content, but you can input here your own content, obviously simply drag and drop, and also now choose from the many open source fonts that we added to Giving Pages, or upload your own font if you have your own bespoke font as an organization. And you can do that to all the different text elements, images elements on the page, and to the footer, which is all rich text. So you can add it and style it however you'd like and need for your organization. Now, to speed up this demo a bit, I'm going to continue, and we are going to open the page settings, the payment form page settings, to actually make the donation. And what you may be remembering from the page settings, there's different screens here. First you choose an amount, then you put in your personal data, and you can see all those different screens here on the right hand side. And when, for example, we want to open a page and add payment methods to it, I can go to the payment methods screen, click on the payment methods field, and configure which payment methods to use for this page. Now, in this case, we want to offer, for example, let's say credit card, ideal, maybe even PayPal. And for recurring, we want to offer Bacs direct debit, and we make credit card. This goes really fast, and that's, I think, fine for now, but it's all documented on our website. We make credit card the default payment method. Now that we've updated the payment methods, I can save the changes, and we could publish the page already and go to it. And when we would go there, you would see the page that we have created. On the top, you see the new logo we added, the title, here the logo. Well, you see the page as it was previewed, right? And when we hit next, we fill in some data. We hit next, here you see credit cards, ideal, PayPal as the payment methods that we offered and we configured in the settings. Now, by far, the best feedback we got from you was saying, look, we have here on this page, we have our own fields in, we have our own custom data model in our organization, and we want to be in control of what to ask our donor in which order. And therefore, we happened to, therefore, you can now add your own fields that can be standard Salesforce fields or custom fields to the payment form in the order that you'd like. So for example, a very common case here is that you also want, next to the name and the email, you want the opt-in field, right? You want people to be able to say, please send me a newsletter. So when we would add a custom field, I can open it. It says, is the field visible for your customers? And we say, yes, it's visible. Is it required? Well, it's an opt-in, opt-out for a newsletter, so it's not per se required. We call the field newsletter, and or newsletter opt-in, for example. And we can say, we can choose any field from the objects from the FinDock API. Because if you are not using Giving Pages with our API, you can completely do this on your own. And we say, well, we want a contact field. And in this case, I created a custom field, similar to how you have custom fields, called newsletter opt-in, which you can see here is a checkbox field. And we could even check it or uncheck it by default. But for now, let's leave it unchecked and let's save it. And then when we publish the page, and we would go to it and I would refresh it, now you would see that we have added here a checkbox to the screen called newsletter opt-in. Now, the second thing is that in this contact, we receive feedback from many of our customers saying, hey, we want to be able to explain a bit to our customers what we are doing with this opt-in. So next to an input field, you can also add rich text to the payment form. So here I added the text element. And let's replace this text and say, we will use your opt-in and contact details with great care. Please visit our privacy statement for more details. And then the privacy statement part, we will make that a URL. So we would say, this goes to www.findock.com/privacy. And now when I save these changes, there's one last thing we want to do, because we want to put this text not after the checkbox. We want to order it, and you can reorder it how you'd like. We want to put it above the checkbox. So when I save these changes, I publish the form and I go to the page. Now you can see, here's our text. And here's the opt-in. And in this sense, you can customize and optimize any of the pages that you see on the form. From the choose this page, you can add text and fields. You can put it to this page and all the other pages that you see after this. Now, last but not least, Lawrence also mentioned that there is these hidden fields, right? Because when you add a field to the payment form, a field can be visible or invisible, let's say, for the end user. And when it's invisible, it's on the page. It's there to input. It will be sent to our API, but you can put a default value here. So you can say the origin is the webinar release demo. And when you put it like this, and we would save this, then all the installments and donations in the system created via this page will have on the inbound report origin field the value webinar release demo. And in that sense, you can add metadata or extra data to the page without bothering your customer, which enables you to close the loop and track the performance of your different campaigns. I think, Lawrence, that's what I'd like to share and demo. Obviously, we are very proud of this functionality, and we hope to see all your creativity in what you can do with these custom fields. But back to you, Lawrence, and the overview of what we have been doing.
Okay, thank you, Stefan, for this demo. I think what's also good to mention is that also for the default fields, we basically take the type from Salesforce. So in the case of campaign, if it's a lookup, for instance, then you would see all the campaigns in that lookup to select as a default field, so you don't have to play around with IDs to get this working properly. I also see a question I would like to answer immediately. So the question from Chris is are there any plans to support fields from other objects, either standard or custom? So currently, basically Giving Pages uses our API, and our API only allows objects that are directly related to payments. And I think we want our payment API to stay that way. However, what we do see customers already do with our API is basically use these hidden fields to send data to Salesforce, which then ends up in the inbound report, and then use the data on the inbound report and, for instance, guided matching to then further handle automation to whatever object or that they like. So there are ways to use basically these objects, and especially the inbound report, to then update whatever process or whatever object that you would like to use. So not directly, but indirectly, we do see a lot of use cases that are solved in this way. So this is what we'll offer for this release, and which we very much hope you will try out and give us feedback on. And we'll continue with Giving Page in the March release. Two main topics that we definitely would like to solve is we got a lot of feedback on the fact that once you've created the page and configured it the way you like, then there's a very high chance you want to create another with the same configuration or with similar configuration. And reusing configuration created in one page for another is something that we will try to solve in the March release, or at least take a step towards in the March release. And the second thing is, what we see is that especially the combination of these hidden fields, but also with the fact that you can now add any input fields on these 5 objects would be very powerful if you could pre-fill these before the customer lands up on the page. So instead of linking one campaign, you can already dynamically send a campaign ID to the page, and then that is used instead of this default value. And we want to enable that for basically all fields. So basically you can build the entire page and the data that ends up in Salesforce dynamically from a URL. Okay, so that covers our main features for today. But of course, we also did a lot of bugs and enhancements based on your feedback, and especially feedback from projects. One thing is that we are trying to make all the processes, and apparently, especially around payment collection and credit transfer, as smooth as possible. And one of the things that was still missing, in our opinion, was the file that gets created at the end of a payment schedule that was sent to Chatter, but was in no way linked to the payment schedule itself. So you would have to go to Chatter and then find the right file there. And we've now linked that file to the payment schedule record. So the entire process is now easier to follow. Of course, it's also still in Chatter, but now from the payment schedule itself, you can find this file and then upload it to your bank or wherever it needs to go. There are, of course, other bugs and enhancements that we did. You can find all of these in our release notes on the documentation side. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact us. And we will, of course, provide you with the details. Okay, thanks everyone for listening. We will stick around for your questions. But if you have somewhere to go, then thank you for joining, and hopefully until the next time.